Hey Internet, my name is Ken and you are watching Herdwatching. This is the first video of 2017. It is January 4th as I'm recording this. Sorry it was a couple of days, but I was sort of laying out what we're going to be talking about for the next little while. And you know, there's a lot we could cover. We could talk about the Trump-Obama transition, and we will. There's more to say about Israel, which we'll talk about. There's a lot to say about the UN. And things in Europe are moving in interesting directions. So all of that lies ahead of us. But here in this first video, I want to take a look at maybe something a little larger than that, something we're going to be talking about through all of 2017. As I looked back over 2016, trying to characterize it, it occurred to me that 2016 was sort of the war of the ism, ist, and phobe narrative, in the sense that 2016 marked the end of the mainstream media, and we'll talk about my definition of mainstream media in a minute, of their ability to unilaterally declare anyone they wanted to a racist, a homophobe, a sexist, a xenophobe. That they tried that. They spent a year to a year and a half pounding on the Trump support and Trump supporters with the worst labels that they could come up with, the ones that used to be radioactive, guaranteed kill shot nightmares. They tried it, and it turns out a whole bunch of people stood up and went, you know what? No, I'm not a racist simply because I want immigration policies to be followed. No, I'm not a sexist just because I don't want some 70, 92-pound female who can't pass the physical testing for a firefighter to be a firefighter. No, you're not going to get to label me that way. So what 2016 saw was the death of the ability of the media to unilaterally define who is morally incorrect and who is morally correct. And this is a power they've enjoyed for a while. This is a power they've pushed certainly for decades, but it really came into its own in the years after the Al Gore loss to the of the presidency, when the media decided that these decisions were far too important to be left up to the average ignorant American, and that they were going to break away from their idea of unbiased reporting. Not that any reporting is ever unbiased, but it used to be better than it has been in the last couple of decades, at least in hiding its bias. But anyway, they decided that they were going to make a sharp turn and start really telling us what to think and leading us down the correct cognitive pathways rather than just sort of leaving us alone. And you can see that a lot in the most obvious place it happened was The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Before the Al Gore loss, there was at least lip service paid to the idea that the Democrats might be fallible too, and in a balanced way. And a lot of my conservative friends and we watched The Daily Show every night before that. And right after that loss, it just took a serious turn for the bitter, for the biased. There was no longer any room to really criticize the left for anything other than being insufficiently critical of the right. After that, the only time the left came under any fire was when they were perceived to be too weak or not contentious enough. And shortly after that, the viewership numbers on the right of The Daily Show fell. We didn't move away. We obviously enjoy comedy at our expense, or most to our expense, because almost all comedies at our expense most of the time. But I don't know, it turned mean, as did a lot of the mainstream media. This is when MSNBC sort of took its hard turn to the left. This is when CNN started its hard turn to the left. So I think they didn't know what to do with the fact that 2016 saw the death of that power. And what they've apparently settled on is that there are too many information sources, that there's too much information that disagrees with their information, that they are no longer in control enough of what we see and hear. And that's obviously why their attempt to control the narrative is failing. Not because we reject it, not because we have finally learned that they don't have the moral authority to make those declarations, that they're not doing it based on any information other than that they disagree with people. No, they've decided, as usual, that it's just because they don't have enough control, or that they're not doubling down on how they're going to try and drive the narrative. But at least tacitly, it's very hard for news organizations and platforms like Facebook and Google and Twitter. Well, not Twitter. Twitter's pretty okay with it. But it's hard for these organizations to come out and flatly say, we are going to boost opinion on the left and we are going to suppress opinion from the right. So they needed another catchphrase. They needed another way to attempt to stuff this genie of free information flow back in the bottle. Because the real reason they lost the unilateral power to define is they no longer have the unilateral control over the information flow. Now, if they say, you know, the sky is red, there are a billion people with camera phones that will show you that it is purple. If they say that, you know, this particular incident happened this way, then there might be a camera phone video that shows that it happened another way. And that's why they've lost control of the narrative, and that is what they're attempting to gain control of again, to stuff that genie back in the bottle and say, make sure you pay attention only to us, because all those other people, they can't be trusted. And they've launched this campaign that started with Hillary Clinton's Correct the Record PAC, but even during the election, where that was really the prototype for this fake news thing, where they would come in and say, oh, no, we're not trying to be biased for Hillary Clinton. We're just trying to correct your errors. It just so happens that anything critical about Hillary Clinton is obviously an error. So what you do if you want to sort of marginalize news sources that you don't agree with is you get everyone very concerned about fake news, and who wouldn't be concerned about being deliberately misled, about people lying to you, about overt bias, maybe trying to control your thought process. So they use that word. They say, oh, it's important to avoid fake news. And we're like, yes, obviously, I don't want to be any part of fake news. I want real news. I want facts. I want the truth. And they go, okay, good. So we all agree on fake news. And now we're going to tell you who the fake news people are. And that's, I think, where they failed to realize how far they've fallen. Because if they lost the ability to unilaterally declare who's a racist, then what makes them think they have the unilateral ability to convince the public of who's real and not real, what's fake and what's not fake? Because the things that, the independently verifiable facts don't particularly need CNN to do that. We know that an elephant weighs more than a mouse. We know that, rocks don't float on water. So the physically observable facts and the verifiable mathematical facts, they don't need anyone's defense. They're either true or false, and it's easy to debunk or not. No, where they're trying to say that other people are fake and they're real is an analysis and opinion. Take, for example, if I was to tell you that I believe that Hillary Clinton broke the law when she kept classified information on her private server, I'm giving you my opinion about a legal reality. Now, either she did or didn't break the law, and it may take there would be strong evidence if a court found her guilty or not guilty that was true. But we all know people who are guilty sometimes get set free by the law, and we know that people who are innocent sometimes get incarcerated. So really the final factual reality on whether someone broke the law when it's in a gray area like this is impossible to define. I have my opinion. CNN has its opinion. Now, you may decide that the 10-year-long lawyer on CNN has a better right to their opinion than I do, and you can certainly do that. But that doesn't make my opinion fake, and it doesn't make it misleading. It just may make me wrong, or it may mean you have more faith in someone else. And this is where these guys are getting into trouble, because they're pointing at opinion and analysis pieces and saying that's fake. I'm not talking about, I think no one would have a problem if they were pointing at the food babe, where she's like, oh my God, it turns out, water is going to turn you into a mermaid, or, all those idiotic websites that tell you that honey will cure cancer because honey in a petri dish kills the occasional cancer cell. I think, no one would have a problem with getting rid of the obvious true stupidity. Now, it's when they're trying to set judgments on what opinions are real and what opinions are fake, or what analysis is real and what analysis is fake, that they run into problems. And now, because they've lost control of that narrative, and that ability to define fake and real on their own, what they're getting, astonishingly, is a tremendous pushback. So when CNN says Breitbart is fake news, it's very, very easy for Breitbart to go, oh, wait, you mean CNN, the people who told us there was nothing to the DNC leaks while their own moderator was feeding questions to Hillary Clinton? Do you mean CNN, the people who spent weeks telling us that the Donald Trump supporters were creators of violence after there was good information that the violence at Donald Trump rallies was really instigated by Hillary Clinton through her PACs and through paid agents? So once a news network says anyone who says something to you that's wrong is trying to mislead you, then they have to be squeaky, squeaky clean. And none of these people are. None of them. MSNBC, Fox, CNN, Huffington Post, Vox, Facebook, Google, all these people who are now attempting to take the moral high ground and tell you what's real and what's fake, none of them are clean enough to have the moral authority to do that. And it's easy to take that hashtag and jam it right back down their throat because they are biased, and it's easy to show where their analysis departs from the facts. And so they've created a real problem for themselves. They've got everyone whipped up about fake news, thinking that they could pin that label on anyone they wanted. And it turns out not only are the pins falling off, but we're pinning them back. We're just slapping that kick me sign right on their back, and they are freaking out about it. You can see more and more analysis coming out. Has the right weaponized the term fake news? Has fake news been hijacked? And yes, it has been hijacked. The left was attempting to use it unilaterally, and we're taking it. We're using it as well. And we're turning it, and we're pointing it back at them when it's applicable. And they can try all they want to sort of legitimize their opinions. I mean, look, Facebook is going to give control of this stuff over to Snopes and PolitiFact and a couple of other places. And that's just idiocy. Because it's trivially easy to show the bias in Snopes. It's trivially easy to show that PolitiFact doesn't have an unbiased record to stand on. So even the sort of experts they've tried to hire to be able to point it and go, oh no, it's not us. We're not the ones doing it. You know, the experts are the ones who are making this decision. This is like science now, boys. It's easy to discredit the guards they're bringing in to sort of guard the walled garden that they want to create. So they've got a problem. They can't get back to a world where they can tell you who's racist until they can shut down any opinion that disagrees with them. And they can't get to that world until they can delegitimize anybody they disagree with. And they can't get there because they no longer have the power in the narrative to make a definition of who's real and who's not. Now, let's be clear. There is such a thing as fake news, quote unquote. There are clickbait websites. There are websites that are deliberately lying to you. I'm not talking about the ones that have a different point of view. I'm not talking about the ones that editorialize. I'm talking about the ones that flat out lie. You know the ones that have a picture of Hillary Clinton and a quote that says, you know, I welcome the coming of our alien overlords, and, you know, a picture of her eyes turning lizard green or whatever. And then it's only in the small print at the bottom that it says, this is a satire site, and none of what we say Hillary Clinton said did she actually say. But obviously what they're counting on is that the I welcome the alien overlords title and Hillary Clinton's picture and the summary under the paragraph gets shared on Facebook over and over and over. And by the time anybody notices that it's not true, millions of people have seen it. And they'll do the same thing. They'll have a picture of Donald Trump that's like, you know, Mexicans go home, or Trump says all Mexicans are rapists. And that's everywhere by the time it's almost impossible to disprove. But it is. It isn't true. You want to talk about fake news? Let's talk about that one. Let's talk about the weeks and months we spent listening to CNN and MSNBC tell us that Donald Trump said all Mexicans are rapists and murderers. You know, so please. But anyway, there is a real problem with these sites, with the clickbait sites, with the obvious lie sites, with the sort of fake science sites. And if I don't want you to give the right to make that decision over to Google or Facebook or Twitter, then what advice do I have for you on how to sort of immunize yourself against this fake news or the people who would mislead you through social media and that sharing mechanism. And what I can say is this: don't fall into an echo chamber. It's really that simple. Look, I'm a conservative, I'm a Trump supporter, but I read Huffington Post every day. I read Fox. I read a bunch of people on Medium I disagree with. I have a RSS program that feeds me something like the headlines from 100 political blogs a day of all stripes. And I read every article that's on a topic that I'm really interested in, that I can get my hands on, that's from a reasonable source. And when I say reasonable source, I don't mean people I agree with. I just mean people who over time have built up some idea that they're well-meaning, intelligent, and can argue a point. They're not just screaming. They have something to say. And that's what keeps me from falling into just a right-wing echo chamber. That's why when even someone I agree with will share something on Facebook and go, oh my God, Hillary Clinton said all Trump supporters should be shot. I know the quote. I know the text of what Hillary Clinton said, because I just read a defense of it on on Vox, and they explain the larger context. So I can go, look, while I would love to jam that down Hillary's quote as if it's true, it's not true. It's just not what she said. And you have to do that. Now, social media is far and away has exposed us as humans to the opinions of more other humans in more diversity than at any time in the history of human interaction. And what we've done with it is demand, because it's human nature, more and more tools to filter out the stuff we don't want to see and limit ourselves to only seeing the things we do want to see. Every time you hit the like button on an article you agree with and Facebook shows you more and more and more things you're probably going to like, the Facebook algorithm is building an echo chamber for you. Now, I'm not saying they should change the algorithm. I'm just saying you have to make sure that you go wider than that. You can't just read the feeds that are presented to you. You have to go wider. So that's really the answer. You combat fake news with more information. And it means that there's an investment on your part that's required. You have to dedicate some time every couple of days to making sure that you're not misled and wrong about this, to read opinions you disagree with. I watch YouTube videos from people who maybe come to different conclusions than I. And I've had my mind changed. And I hope there are people out here who watch Herdwatching who maybe don't agree with me on everything, but find something valuable in the discussion, even if ultimately they don't change their mind. Because if your opinions are right and your ideas are reasonably well thought out, they can survive getting information that disagrees with them. They can survive reading an analysis that comes to a different conclusion. And if your opinions and thoughts and feelings on these things cannot survive well-reasoned argument on the other side, if you protect them because they're too fragile to survive being challenged, then you need to get rid of them, and that's your fault. That's not the fault of Huffington Post or Vox or The Onion or Breitbart or anybody but you. You have to make sure that your theories hold up. You have to make sure that you've thought about this stuff. So anyway, that's basically the rant, okay? So let's recap. Yes, there is kind of a fake news problem, though that's not the term we've ever used for it before. Most of it's in the form of parody sites. Most of it's in the form of clickbait. Your job is to read widely enough that you can get past that. Follow primary sources. If somebody says this report from this congressional committee says X, go read the report. It's probably available. Yeah, maybe you're not going to read every one of 600 pages, but read the relevant pages. Anyway, so you combat fake news by reading wider. If you are part of one of those groups whose opinion is targeted by the hashtag fake news, by the sort of central, larger traditional media groups or the primarily left-leaning media, turn that hashtag around and hit right back. Don't give any ground. Hit back. If they're telling you your opinion is fake, but your opinion is actually well-reasoned, don't take that. And be very careful of the sort of encroaching algorithm changes that are coming to Facebook, that are coming to Google, that are coming to Twitter. And if you find that you've gone a whole lot of time on those platforms and you're not seeing any opinions you disagree with, find a way to get more of that information into you. So anyway, I hope you found this valuable. 2017, we're going to talk about this more and more and more. 2017 is, if anything, this battle over legitimacy, where the larger media organizations are going to attempt to sort of push social media information, phone video and all this information. They're going to try and push that down and say, no, don't think about this stuff on your own. Trust professional journalists to tell you what to think about it. Do I think you should ignore professional journalists? No. But understand that they're human, they have opinions, they have biases, and that they tend to work on stories that confirm their biases, just the way everybody else does. I hope 2017 is going to go really well for all of us. I'm really looking forward to what we're going to make happen here at Herdwatching. I hope you guys had a great and safe New Year, and we will be talking more on this topic and a bunch of others. Have a great day, and we'll speak again.